Hi there everyone. Assalamu alaikum. So today we will learn about the functions. So we will in this class we will learn how to use function, how to define function and also how many types of functions and what are the advantages of the functions and how to implement a function in C++. Okay. So this is me Tanvir Muhammad Hassan. So what is the functions basically? A function is a block of code that performs some operations. A function can optionally define input parameters that enable callers to pass argument into the functions. So a function can optionally return a value as output. So how many types of functions we have? We have two types of functions, right? We have two types of function. One is void and another is void. So what is the void? So for void we don't have the return type, and for non-void we have the return type, right? So we will get clear explanation later when we will implement the code. Okay. So the advantage of using the functions. So the main advantage of the function is overloading is that it improves code readability and allows code to reusability. The uses of function overloading is to save memory space, consistency, and also readability. So it can reduce the execution's time. Also can reduce the space of our RAM. So it speed up the execution of the program, and code maintenance also becomes easy, and function overloading brings flexibility to code. And the last one is the function can perform different operations, and hence it eliminates the use of different function name for the same kinds of operations. So in function we can see, firstly there in non-void function we have the return type, and then we have the name of the functions and we have the parameter, right? So we can implement it in dev C++. So let's continue with our coding. So here is our compiler. So currently I'm using dev C++. Okay. So just need to create a source file, and this is the basic structure of our coding, and I have mentioned how to create this one. We want to write a function now. So what we want to do, we want to add two numbers using a functions, right? We already know how to add a two number, but we don't know how to write a code for adding two number using the functions, right? So here we can just create a functions name int add, and then the parameter of a, and then the type of the parameter here, right? And then we will return the value a plus b, right? Okay. So what type of function is this? This is actually non-void function, right? So as I mentioned before, non-void function have the return type, but for the void function we don't have the return type, right? So okay. So now we just print a message for the user to enter two number. Then we will get the input from the user, number one space number two, right? Okay. So here we have to declare the two number one two. Okay. Then we'll take two number from the user and we have to call the functions, right? So here we can name another variable, and then sum equals to, we can call the functions, right? Add, and we have to pass the parameter, right? Number one comma number two, right? So what we have done here, we want to add two number, right? We want to see the sum of the two numbers. So here we call the functions and we pass the variable here. So this is actually calling the function, right? Okay. So and then we want to print the operations, right? The sum of these two number is, then we want to print the sum. Okay, so we have done almost. And here what we have done, so we declare a variable number one, number two, and also sum. We will get the input from the user. So here is the input statement, and here we just sum the two numbers. So here we call the functions. The name of the function is add, and then we pass the parameter number one, number two, right? So when we pass the parameter, it will go here and it will store the parameter one here and then parameter 2 here, right? So this is the type of the parameter. So here we want to sum the two integer numbers, so we declare this parameter as integer, right? And the types of the function is integer, right? So this is actually non-void functions. Let's run the code. Okay, there is some missing here. Okay, so we want to add 5 and 10. So here you can see the program has successfully executed, right? So 5 plus 10 is 15. Okay, so now we want to write the function after the main body, right? So what we have to do here, we just copy and then paste the function after the main function. So if we write the functions after the main functions, this is our main function, right? And this is our user input function, user defined function, right? So what we have to do is we have to declare a prototype, right? Int, this is will be the similar int, and they are supposed to be no parameter, and then we have to put the semicolon, right? To int. Okay, 10 and 5, right? So you can see successfully executed, right? So there is two way to write the functions. Either you can define the function before the main functions, or you can define the function after the main body, right? Main functions. Okay, so now we will learn how to write void function. Okay, so what we have to do, we just remove this one. Here we have to write the void, and in void function there is no data type. So far we can identify whether it is void or non-void. So in void function, there in front of the function name there will be the name void, right? And then we can here write a statement cout the sum of these two number is, so this one, right? Okay, so remember in void function we don't have the return type, right? So what we have done here, we just take input from the user and then we call a function name add, and here is the functions. So this is the parameter as I mentioned before, and this is the name of the function. So this is basically the void function. How do we identify? We can identify in front of the function name there will be a name called void, right? Just run the code and then we can see 10 and 5. You can see the program has successfully executed, right? So we want to see another examples. So we have learned the user defined function. Now we will learn the built-in function, right? So what is the built-in function? Suppose we want to see the square root of any number. So what we have to do, we just declare a variable name number and then another variable square root, right? So suppose we want to see the number, or sorry, the number equals to 25.0, and then we want to see the square root, right? So how to do that? As sqrt square root equals to sqrt number, and then we just simply see a message that the square. So we just print a message the square root of this number is the square root, right? So in a square root, we can declare this one as the capital letter because we can identify the difference. Okay, so in this square root variable we call a function, built-in functions, so square root, and we pass the values of this number, and here we print a message, right? So we can just run the code. Okay, I think program square square root, we can write the full name, then there will be no problem hopefully. Yeah, so you can see the square root of the number is 25 is 5, right? Okay, so now we will learn how to write a pattern. For example, if I want to print 1 and then 1 2 and 1 2 3, so how to write this pattern? So I will show one of the example and you can get it as a reference, so you can write the code further. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so first of all, we can declare a functions, void function name display pattern. So we can pass the parameter as integer, and then this is the prototype, right? So here we can write this is function prototype. Okay, so we can take the how many rows we want. So to do that, we want to declare a variable name rows, and we want to print a message to the user how many rows we want. So how many rows you want, and then we can take input from the user, see in the row, and then we can call a function name display pattern, right? And we will pass the parameter. Okay, okay, so our function main function done. Then we have to write the user defined function void display pattern, and then we have to write the type of the parameter. So and we have to write the nested loop, right? int I equals to 1, and then I is greater than or equals to n, and then I plus plus. So here we can write another functions, sorry, another loop int j, because you can see, so you can see this is the row 1, row 2, row 3, right? So we have to write the nested loop to print these rows. Okay, and then j is greater than or equals to I, and then j plus plus. Okay, so here we want to print the pattern see out, and then we can want to print the star. Okay, so so far done. Okay, so let's run the code. So for instance, we want the 4 rows, right? You can say 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So 4 rows here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can write here 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So it will increment, right? What if I want to print the reverse order? So it's also simple. Just you have to write the n here, and it's supposed to be less than or equals to 1, and we can decrement, right? Decrement the values. And so far, yes, okay, run the code. So 4, you can see it's already decremented, right? So this is all for today. So hope you can understand. If you don't understand, please let me know. You can ask me through WhatsApp and also the Google Classroom. So if any problem or anything you don't know, just let me know. Okay, thank you so much for all. Thank you everyone.